All right, everybody, it's time to roll the win. Practice like you play like you practice. Let's go roll. All right, everybody, this video is kind of a little bit about some history, how things used to be kind of in the DI community as it began, just a little bit as far as die sets are concerned. Then I had a couple questions, people, very simple things that, you know, we just don't take the time to explain. We don't take the time to explain what a single pitch is or what a double pitch is. So some of you are going to find this a little bit remediary, but there's going to be some history involved with what we talk about. Now, there's also been a lot of controversy in the last few weeks about this particular set. In fact, if it's not this set, it would be any other set. Now, you've seen me throw this set a lot on my come out videos. It's a good come out set. Why is it a good come out set? All right, this is a single pitch. This is a double pitch. All that means is that one dice landed on a rotational basis once or twice more than the other dice. Now, it could be multiple pitches involved. It could be triple pitches, it could be quadruple pitches. But from the time they land to the face ups, one rotated more than the other, either one time or two times, based on the faces. And that's really all that means. Single pitch, double pitch. Now, I can do whatever I want to with these. I can turn these sideways 100 million times and it still will never change the faces. Never change the faces. It's 2 and 2 and 5 and 5 on the back. It's pretty simple. There's only two ways to make a hard 4. It don't matter how many times this dice changes, because when they land, and they land like that, it's a hard 4, and that's the only way to get it. They can spin and spin this way, spin and spin this way, still a hard 4. Now, in the old days, we used to set every dice in relation to its axis. A 6, a 6, a 1, and a 1. When you set those dice set that way, you're setting them on an axis, an imaginary axis, when you set the dice, running through the center of the dice, and that's the axis of the dice. So 6 1s and 1 6s are all hard way sets. If I turn that one rotation, that is no longer a hard way set. Going back to what I originally had it set at. Why do I use that on the come out? Well, if one of these double pitches, and I'm throwing a world bet, my world bet is a push. If I stay with an on-axis result, top or bottom, I've got the magic number. Now, if they roll this way, I've got an ace deuce. Conversely, on the back side, I've got yos. Those are all world bet payers. The other best option for setting the point is either going to be the 8 off of that set or the 6. That's why I like that set. You don't always get those numbers, but if you stayed with an on-axis result like we're showing here, where it's just simply rotating around the very center axis, I'm going to get something that helps me with my world bet. If I get this, didn't help. I got a 0.9. If If I get this, doesn't help. I get a point of 10, right? The other thing I can do off this set is I can start reading my faces on my initial throw. Sometimes I'll even hop the hard 4 and the hard 10 on the come out with this set because of where the hard 4 and the hard 10 are. They're on the main faces of the set. Now there's only 3 ways to make a 4. A 1-3, a 3-1, and a 2-2. That's it. Period. No other combinations are going to give you a 4. And there's only 3 of those combinations on the dice that we use in craps. That'd be like saying there's, rotating them this way and this way still doesn't make it a different way to make a hard 4. Look, every time I rotate it, it's still a hard 4. Every time I rotate it, it's still a hard 4. How many times they go around this way, it doesn't stop the faces, doesn't change the faces. So, is this a hard way set? A lot of people call it a hard way set. I don't. I call that an inline 6. It's an inline 6 because it's got a 3-4, 3-4 axis. 3, 4, 3, 4. Not a 6-1, 6-1. This is a parallel 6s. Is it a hard way set? Some of you are going to say it is because it's got quote unquote hard ways. Those aren't hard ways. These are horn numbers, 6s and 1s. This is a big, I'm going to shoot a 7 set. Just like the 6-2, 6-2. Some people prefer this because of the way the dice are lined up. So if they're looking to throw more 7s, it's still pretty much the same, except they've got to tumble sideways a little bit differently. So it depends on how your sets roll out or roll in. That's in parallel 6s. Cross 6s. It's got slightly similar look, but look, the 6s are crossed. Now look at the axis. 5, 2, that never changed. 3, 4. We've still got 7s on the axis of the dice before we toss them. Five, 2, 5, 2, 5, 2, 3, 4. Those are the actual faces, the axial faces on those dice. That's why they're a different set. That's why this, in my opinion, is not a hard way set, and neither is this, because they've got different axes. We used to, years and years ago, and it was kind of confusing because what dice set did you use? Well, I used a 3-4, 3-4 on the come out. You did what? In today's terminology, we'd go, how you do that? 3s and 4s on the opposite side of the dice. So we were calling out our axis. We used a 3-4, 3-4. And it's a little confusing, but everything was in the new state. It was in the, trying to figure out what's going on, and axis seemed to be a good way to let us know. We could turn one around and we still had basically the same axis. We just had the 7s lined up in a different place. You could say back then I've got a 3-4 set with a 4-3 on the right. Then when they started coming out with computer programs First guys that came out with it, so we're going to change that a little bit. We're going to do top faces, front faces. So this will be a 6622. 6622 set. 6 is on top, 2's on the face. Still slow. You know, it takes a little while. If you get the dice brought to you, it takes a little while. Okay, I got my 6s. Now where are my 2s? I got to find my 2s real quick. You know, so you're almost setting the dice twice, in my opinion. Now, from a bone tracker standpoint, it's still set up that way. If you're not using that type of terminology when you're inputting your sets into bone tracker, then you're getting invalid results, because that right there is how it's set up, and it's explained in the instructions that go with it. Nowadays we call that a 6262 or an inline 6 set. Either way, as long as the 6s are in line, you know what you've got. So how many inline 6 sets are there? Well, look at this. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, there's 5. So there's a lot of different ways to configure a dice set. We've done this with a 3V before, way back. If you have questions, I think the video is entitled which 3V set do you use? There's more than 2, there's more than 3, there's more than 4, there's more than 5. Just go watch the videos. There's 576 different ways to set the dice, believe it or not. You'll see me all the time. You guys see me all the time playing with 2124. Well, I've got double pitch 7s, tops and bottom, both places. So there's 2 ways to make a 7 on this dice set. The other night when I was throwing live, I was throwing a cross 6 set. I believe it was a cross 6 set. And somebody said, oh, there's like 5 ways to make, or 4 ways to make a 7 or something on that set. It's not true. There's only the double pitch if you get an on-axis result. You get off-axis, you've got all kinds of problems. But you've got to learn, if you're going to be a dice setter and practice, you need to learn how to manipulate the dice to where the faces that make the 7 are in alignment with where your primary facial hits are not. Okay? You want to hide as many of the ways to make the 7 as it relates to your toss and how your toss reacts to the table. Kind of complicated sounding, but in reality it's easy. Once you grasp it, you got it. It takes everybody a little bit to get it, because some people are still sitting there picking their ice cream up off the floor when I said there was 576 ways to set the dice with 2 sets. That's why when people ask you what dice set you use, other than curiosity, it doesn't mean anything, because there's so many different ways. This 2-1, 2-4. The 7s, the faces that make the 7 are in the exact same location as a 3-2, 3-6. These are the easy, top and bottom. Right? Double pitch. Either one of those, 3-4 or 4-3. That would be your end up result. If we have a 5, and this one stays on axis. Now, watch this. I'll go back to the 2-1 and the 2-4 I'm going to roll this one over 1. I'm going to roll that one over 1. Even a better example. 6263. That has the same combination of faces as a 2123. All right, so let's just assume that you're love setting a cross 6, and maybe most of the time you're setting it as a 6263. If you're doing that, but you still you're not hitting a number for a side, or you're not hitting a number for the all or something like that, you can go from a 6263 to a 2123. And if you throw a 7 with the 2123, it would have been a 7 with the cross 6s, because the faces are in the same spot. But it gives you an opportunity to maybe nail a different number. That's what we're talking about. I hope I've answered a few of your questions, maybe cleared up some of the noise around the dice sets. It's hard for me to believe that so many people have so many questions about how these dice sets work and which ones will perform better and all that. Well, ultimately it depends on what you're trying to shoot, and it depends on your ability to influence the dice, and then ultimately the luck of the bounce. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. Are you repetitive enough with your grip, your stance, your launch, your angle, your landing spot, and consistent enough with the bounce off the wall, high or low, to get consistent results? I'll give you one last example. I built a book probably a year and a half ago based on that 2124. My primary number one number was the 9. I was getting a lot of 5/4s. That's a single pitch. This one only rotated once, this one rotated twice. Okay, I was getting a lot of 5/4s, a few 6/3s. Even then, if I got that 6, I usually had one off axis right here. Okay, so the 2124, I knew that 9 was a strong number on that set. My number one number. My number 2 number on that book of rolls, and it was a lot of rolls, about 1,500 rolls, was an 8. So my second best number was an 8. The faces that made the 8, the number one face for those 8s was a 4 and a 4. One on axis result, one dice off axis result. Does that mean I wasn't influencing the dice? When your second most thrown number is a hard 8 with that set, just because one goes off axis, or you get an off axis result with one of those dice, that doesn't mean you're not imparting influence. And that's important for everybody to know. I've had my chi-squared virtually at 0 with over 50% off axis before on books. That's influence. If you're looking for only on axis type tosses and counting those as being proficient, you're fooling yourself. You're probably cutting yourself short. I would say, think about it. If you've got proficiency where you're getting this one and this one, that's an advantage. That's an advantage when that's your second most tossed facial hit. I don't care what anybody says. You'll see me bet a hard 8 with this set a lot because of that. Now I get a lot of 2-6s and 5-3s too, don't get me wrong. But I get a lot of hard 8s with this set. And that's the way. You can call it English, you can call it whatever, energy, I don't know. I refer to it as English, like you're shooting pool. The English I put on my shot, I get that kind of result. And so I know that. So I also know that, if I was throwing this set, I'd probably want to bet a hard 6 out there somewhere. I hope this is making sense to you, but maybe we need to dig deeper into analyzing your toss and doing it correctly. Get rid of some of the myths out there. Pull down some of the confusion that's out there. So, everybody's got a good, a favorite set, but they probably don't know why. And the only reason that they might know why is that they've had a few good rolls with it, and they've had some sucky rolls with it, but it always sticks out. I had a great long roll with this set. Let's look at another set. I've thrown this off and on for years. A little bit of a dangerous set. Single pitch away from a 7. Okay. I got a hard 10. I got a hard 4 on the opposite of that. 2 and a 2 on the bottom. Well, that's a double. That's a single pitch set right away, right? I'm just one rotation off face. One rotates more than the other, and I got a bad number. But if you were good enough to have facial control on the original axis that you tossed, this is nothing but 5, 6s, and 8s all the way around. Hard 10s and hard 4s. So it's a 6-8 sniper set. That's what it is. But you got to be good enough to keep those on that axis. The nice thing is, if you're not, you're going to get other numbers, right? If you're not getting that original on axis style result. Maybe we should dig deeper into these types of things more. Y'all let me know what you think. I hope I didn't confuse anybody anymore. If I did, go back and watch it. Ask questions. I feel like there's so many new people putting out videos that don't have a great grasp yet of how the dice sets really work in conjunction with your toss. They don't understand how to read dice, and they think there's more than one way to make a hard 4. Okay, there's not. It's really not that complicated. I told y'all that in my rant video the other day. It's just not that complicated once you start to get a grasp on it. But if you start making stuff up, it's going to confuse the world. Right now in the world, the standard is that's a 5-1-3-5 set. I like it. I can set my left dice to 5-1. I can set my right dice to 3-5. It's quick at the table. Doesn't slow me down. Doesn't slow the table down. I don't have to set it off the original way we used to do it, which was just calling out the axis. So this used to be a 4-3-6-1 set. What are you throwing today? Well, I'm throwing a 4-3-6-1. That would confuse the fool out of everybody now. 25 years ago, that's how you set the dice, by the axis. So that's why today you have certain sets that are still the standard. Where do you think the 3V came from? 3V didn't come just because it looks like a V. It came from the axis. Came from the axis. 5, 2, 6, 1. It came from an all sevens type axis. And those were put on, they're trying to impart some influence so that when the dice land, they give you an on-axis type result, not both axes off, what have you. Right? You don't want those. You don't want this. Trying to keep those, they put the sevens in axis to kind of hide them. That was the original intent. That was the original thought concept behind it way back. So, you want to throw a 3V, throw a 1-6-2-5. Guess what though? There's other ways to set the 3V. But still, look at here, 6-1-2-5. They're all the same axis numbers. They're just configured to go to a different location. Right? How many you want? There's tons of them out there, folks. Same axis though. Same actual groups. Gotta be. The threes are on top. Think about it. They all gotta have the same axis because the same numbers are on the same top, on the top. Just configured in a different place. Rolling forward, don't matter, same axis. 5-3-6-3. Sarge's famous 2-3-6-3. They're all the same. All we've done is change which directions they float. It's still a 3V set. This particular one, 6-1-5-2. I'm getting deep in the weeds, aren't I? I apologize. But again, there's some standards out there. There's some standards that's been set out there for 20 plus years. If you're gonna reinvent the wheel, start with where it started and see if you can improve it. I doubt it. There's not a whole lot on two sets of dice that hadn't been thought of over the many years of there being a craps table out there. So thank you for watching. Appreciate it. Hope to see all of you that can make it to the Brownwater Bash June 10th. Practice like you play like you practice. Go roll to win.
Would you like to learn more about craps and how to toss dice with a favorable outcome? Subscribe to Roll to Win over at YouTube. Bring your favorite Brownwater and play along. And don't forget, practice like you play like your practice. And then, well, go roll to win.